Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, ColorCert ScoreCard Server 2.0, Modern, Connected, and Cloud-Based. Presenting today is Jason Campbell, the Product Manager for ColorCert, and Bob Binder, one of our Solution Architects. I'm Robert Grotans, the Global Digital Learning Manager, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. I just want to go over a couple of things before we get started today. Due to the number of people that are attending today's webinar, we will keep everyone muted. If you have any questions during the presentation today, please use the questions function on the GoToWebinar panel, and we will have some time at the very end to answer a few of those. Finally, this webinar will be recorded and you will receive a follow-up email after this webinar with a link to the recording so that you can watch it again. So I will turn it over to Jason to get things started.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert, and welcome everybody that's in attendance. Appreciate your time and attention to our opportunity here to present to you a product introduction webinar on the ColorCert ScoreCard Server V2. This is going to just be a high-level walkthrough to expose you all to what's new and updated, and then we'll have, as Robert said, a demo by my colleague, Bob Binder. So let's start off for especially those of you that might not be well aware of or understand what ScoreCard Server is in the ColorCert ecosystem. So ScoreCard Server is our cloud reporting component to the ColorCert Suite. ColorCert Suite is a collection of both desktop software and cloud-based software, of which ScoreCard Server is a piece of. It receives production reporting from the ColorCert desktop software and provides that information for both printers and converters and brands alike in terms of monitoring their color performance and their print quality performance. It presents this in a web-based and customizable dashboard, and we'll look at that in the next few slides and in Bob's demo. So what's really happening with ScoreCard Server, especially for anybody that's in attendance that's already been aware of the legacy product? We knew that the product needed to go further. It needed to grow with our maturing customers and also to meet the needs of a maturing industry that's spending more and more time looking at color and production performance, often across multiple plants or across the supply chain. So that greater visibility and the ability to look at that performance comprehensively and supply that information to key stakeholders that are across multiple locations was very much a fundamental design feature of the solution. In terms of what we present in the scoring and what we mean by ScoreCard, it is an unbiased quality assessment. We communicate the standards, the tolerances, and the metrics at the time of production and collect that reporting in the ScoreCard server. So when you as a customer and as a user of the system look at it and evaluate performance, you see apples to apples comparisons where you can really take a look and understand where problems may be. Configurability and extensibility was at the forefront of the redesign of the product. Every user and use case is a little bit unique and different. We know that different users will use the tool in different ways to help solve different kinds of problems within the entire production flow, whether you're a production manager managing a print plant, a corporate quality manager looking at your organization fulfilling many needs of many customers, or as a brand owner looking to keep an eye on what the performance is of your supply chain and procurement. And then, of course, especially for printer and converter customers, at the forefront is differentiating yourself and really committing to quality and expressing the priority that that takes in your organization with your broad customer base. Whether they're asking or not, the use of such a system really shows that your organization has made a commitment and an investment in advancing your commitment to print quality. So we've talked about ScoreCard Server, and I mentioned it is a part of a broader ecosystem. So if we take a look at what is ColorCert Suite, it is both a desktop component expressed at the bottom there and in use by multiple stakeholders throughout the production chain. We have a sister product, the repository server, which is a digital asset management platform. And then, of course, the ScoreCard server, which is really the reporting aspect of the entire suite solution. So that reports up and can report and does report all of that production capability and results to ScoreCard Server. But this same solution has been now integrated into our IntelliTrax Pro product line. So for offset converters using that solution can now report directly to ScoreCard Server to implement the same type of benefit, as well as users of our IQC. Color IQC 10 supports this functionality as well, along with a handful of third-party QC software that has also incorporated support for ColorCert ScoreCard Server. So to take a closer look at what all of that means in practical terms and take a live look, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Bob Binder, who will walk through a couple of key points and show a demo to you all right now.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. Took me a moment there just to switch over. I take it that everyone can see my screen at this point and hear me just fine. So this is a look at ScoreCard Server version 2. And one of the things that's really powerful about this is it's extremely configurable. What we're looking at here is a dashboard screen. And if you look over here on the left-hand side of the screen where we have a navigation panel, you can see that I currently have 3 different dashboards. I can have, and every user can have, up to 5 different dashboards. They're completely configurable using these little views into our data, which we call widgets. We can add or remove widgets. We can configure widgets. You can see here that I have a widget in this case that I've called Label Expo Color Deviation. So what I'm doing with this widget is looking at color information from a particular item. This is a powerful tool if, like, say, I'm a product manager at a brand and I want to see information maybe for a brand new product that we're releasing. I could build a dashboard for myself built specifically to look at information around that particular product. You can see that these individual widgets are very configurable by clicking on these different icons. I can choose what colors I want to look at. I can choose a date range if that's what I'm interested in, and that can be a custom date range. It can be a pre-configured one, last month, last 6 months, whatever I want. Once I've chosen a date range, I can then choose an interval by day, by week, by month. I can choose whether I want to look at production data, make-ready data, or even proof data if we've measured proofs into the jobs. And if I want to look at particular print locations, I can choose print locations, or I can choose to look at my data by who did the separations for the item. And there will be some difference between different widgets. Some widgets will have certain selections. In some cases, certain selections don't make sense. For instance, this one here, I'm just looking at average scores. So by color doesn't make sense. You'll see that icon's not there. By the way, the name that we call these widgets is configurable. Below that, I'm looking at the most recent jobs that have been uploaded. In this case, I can configure what we show in these different columns because different viewers will be interested in different information. Again, if I'm a brand owner or a product manager at a brand, I may be focused on this production job score. I may not care so much about spot color scores and dot gain scores if my production job scores, my overall score looks good. But if I'm a plant manager at a print location, I'm probably going to be very interested in this information. And I can look at other things like here I'm looking at my substrate, and these are just a couple of bubbles we can add that show, you know, score values over the previous month, number of jobs ran over the previous month, that sort of information. I can remove widgets. I can just click on this widget option. You can see there's information. I can download information. I can change the title, or I can remove it if I like. If I want to add a new widget, I can just click on this icon and I can add whatever widget I want and then configure it to my preferences. We can drill down into specific job information. So for example, I'm looking at this list of recent jobs that we've run. If I want to look at more information on a specific job, I can click it, and this will bring me to our job details view. You will see that this view is also composed of widgets. So I can do a similar type of thing. I can configure this view to look however I like. There's again a selection of different widgets I can choose. In this case, I have a view showing me my deviation from standard. You'll see that this particular job had primaries, substrate, spots, and I can click on these different tabs and it will show me the different views. So I had overprints here, I have gray balance scores. I can look at these, I see a graph. What we're looking at here, this is a job that had 7 different readings in it. This little roll icon up here, we can click on this, and if I want to look at information for a specific role, I can do that. You'll notice that the graph changed, as well as my numerical information over here on the left. If I choose to look at all roles, now it's showing me numerically the average score for all of the readings that I took during this production, and then my graph is showing me each one of those roles. In this case, we're also looking at dot gain coverage. This is similar in that I can choose to look at a specific role, or I can look at my average. Here I can turn items off. So let's just say I wanted to look at the magenta and focus in on that. I can turn off the other colors and focus in just on the magenta dot gain. Here, this view is showing me my quality level for all of the different metrics that we've measured in this particular item. So for example, I can look through here and I can see I got a couple yellow readings. One was for my MnDOT. I can see my MnDOT score is 54, so that's something I may want to take a look at. Also, my spot color score is 68, so it's not too bad, but you know, again, I may want to take a look at those. Here we're looking at some job summary information and a job preview. And again, this is super easy to customize. If I want to remove this widget, I can just remove it. These widgets, same thing with the scorecard. I can just drag these to make them larger. If I want to change my layout, we can move things around any way we like. If I do this at the dashboard, I can then save that with a name, and I can have it, if I choose to, show up on my navigation panel over here on the left. So all of this information is very configurable. I can also add multiple copies of a widget. So let me show you that. This deviation summary, for example, maybe I want to add 2 more deviation summary widgets, and I want to increase them. And the reason I might want to do this, for example, as I showed you before, we can look at specific information. So rather than clicking around, maybe I want to set one up to show primaries, one to show spots, and one to show my gray balance targets. So now if I do this, when I come in here to look at a job, I'll have all of that information right at the top of the screen for me. And maybe that's what I'm interested in. Maybe I want to look at that and I want to turn off all these other ones. Again, this is completely configurable. This job view panel is sticky. So in other words, when I set up my views like I like them, it remembers that. This is just a quick overview today. We don't have nearly enough time to go through everything, but let me just show a couple of other things. We do have a search function. So if I want to come in here and search for specific jobs, I can create filters. I can create combinations of filters. If I create a combination of filters that I'm going to use frequently, I can save it. And what that does is just helps me drill down to specific information that I might be looking for. We have this compare feature. And what this does, this allows me to select specific jobs. So if I want to select some specific jobs, I can click on the plus sign, and you can see I have these 3 selected currently. Maybe I'll just add a 4th to that. And then I click on this symbol here for compare. Here we can configure what's in these rows, much like we can configure our widgets. So, maybe there's other things I'm going to look at here. I'll choose brand, business units. We can come through the list, and pretty much anything that's in a ColorCert job is now available to us in the ScoreCard server. So, maybe I want to come down here and I want to grab some of my color information. Here's my device, the serial number, all of this sort of information I can come in here and grab, and it will add it to this confirm. So I can, set this up here. Now I'm looking at a lot more information. This is something new we have in this server that I think is going to be useful for customers. We do have some reporting options. We also have subscriptions. Subscriptions are a way of receiving reports on either a regular basis, or we now have the option of creating exception reports. And an exception report is a report that gets triggered when a certain set of criteria or single criteria is met. So for example, we could create an exception report that would send a notification to us anytime a job was uploaded to the ScoreCard server that, let's just say, had a score of below 35, or maybe our dot gain was out of tolerance. So we can set up exception reports now as well as regularly scheduled reports. And with that, let's turn it, well, I'm going to turn it back over to Jason. He has a closing slide to cover just to wrap things up. And then if we do have any questions, we can discuss those.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Bob. Hopefully my screen flipped back for everybody. I think so. So just in closing, that there is plenty more to uncover. So if you found this presentation interesting to you and feel that ColorCert might be a good fit for solution to problems, maybe challenges that you've been facing in your workflow and organization, you can reach out to us. Some information here at the bottom is included if you'd like to dig a little bit deeper first. And then, of course, our sales team is available to answer any questions specific to your workflow, or even connect you to some of our technical resources like Bob to help walk through the rest of the ColorCert suite, how it applies to your particular situation, and how X-Rite can help solve your color challenges. So with that, thank you so much. Robert, I think I'll turn that back over to you as our moderator. I don't know if we had any questions, but thank you all for your time and attention.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, Bob and Jason. I see a few questions coming in already. If you do have any questions, please feel free to submit them now. While we wait for more questions to come in, I do want to launch a quick polling question. If you are interested in talking to a sales representative or have someone reach out to you, please feel free to answer this question, and we can certainly get you in touch with someone immediately. While that is up, I will read some of these questions. So I do see one question right now. How is the transition from V1 to V2?
So the way that we approach that with our current customers of version 1 is that we can actually set up a link between version 1 and version 2. And that way we can nurture the transition first with that customer, if that's yourself, with your team, and make sure that that transition goes smoothly. and is validated so that the confidence is there. And then, of course, the full switchover can be made where then the version 1 would be stood down and all of the data is converted over into V2. So that is something that is an iterative and collaborative process. Again, if it's somebody that already has V1, and of course, if you're a new customer, you would just be coming straight into V2 where that would not be an aspect of the engagement.
Will existing jobs on V1 be visible in V2?
All jobs and data come over from version 1 and are faithfully reproduced and reprocessed to expose the deeper level of data that formerly required many other steps to get at. So the deeper level that was demonstrated by Bob, which is a pronounced step forward in V2 versus V1, all comes over and is available retroactively to all jobs, whether they're a year-old, 5-year-old, or beyond.
Perfect. Does this support exact scan?
The data that comes into ColorCert ScoreCard Server originates from the print execution and measurements using ColorCert Desktop, and that does support exact scan.
How is the user management improved?
Users have a configurable set of roles in version 2, but at its most basic, there's the concept of a user and an administrator. And therefore, there is the notion of a user that is just seeing data. There is the notion of users who can control access to the data. And then there's a variety of other controls for visibility to different segments of data. This is done to facilitate whether it's somebody reporting or looking at data from perhaps it's just a specific site, or maybe it's, for example, a corporate quality manager that needs to look at several sites and so on.
On one of your earlier slides, Jason, you mentioned third-party systems can upload a V2. Are we able to mention any of these?
It's no secret. So Measure Color does support connection to ColorCert ScoreCard Server, and Flexicon Ink Pilot also supports this as well. There are some others. But you know, they're not at a stage that we can mention at this time, out of respect for them.
I'll take one more question here. It looks like, do we have a timing on when this will go live yet?
So ScoreCard version 2 is available today. For version 1 customers that are interested in transitioning, we would invite you to reach out to your technical and sales representatives. We are working through a prioritization and scheduling process with all of our existing V1 customers. We want this to be an iterative and collaborative process. This is a rather pronounced change from our legacy solution over the last decade. And so we want to make sure that we work with each and every one to get through that process successfully. So if that's whoever might have asked that question, please reach out to your contacts. That will get to me and the rest of the ColorCert team to work with you.
Perfect. Thank you. We will conclude here for today. That is all the time we have for questions. If we didn't get to your question, we'll certainly be sure to follow up with you. I can direct those to either Jason or Bob. Again, this session has been recorded, so we will send out that recording tomorrow. And you can also reply to that recording, and that gets sent to me, so I can also direct your questions to the appropriate person. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for attending this webinar, and Once again, have a great rest of your day, and thank you, Bob and Jason, for presenting. Thanks, everyone.